Approaching Market and 51st Street in San Diego, we are filled with wonder at what lies within this awesome array of shapes and colors. The history of this magical building reads like a fairy tale. I'm Esther Bloom. Our guest today in the studio is Executive Director of the Elementary Institute of Science. Her story unfolds like a once-upon-a-time tale. Welcome to PACE TV. We are so happy and excited to have you here and listen to how it all began.
Well, thank you for inviting me here. How it all began was about 40 years ago. Tom Watts, who was our founding director, had some students in his class. He was a beginning teacher, and they weren't learning as well as he thought they should learn. And so he started this science club in the back of his classroom. And it started with an aquarium, so that's why you'll see the aquariums in our building, because the janitor had an aquarium that they wanted to throw away, and they gave it to Mr. Watts and set up this aquarium. And inside were some fish, and when he brought them up, the fish died. And one of the little boys that he was really concerned about asked the question, "Why did the fish die, Mr. Watts? What happened?" And so that was the beginning of studying marine biology in Mr. Watts's class, and also the beginning of the Elementary Institute of Science.
Well, what is the mission of the Institute?
Well, the mission from that day forward was to make sure that students had an opportunity to learn about science at an age when they were naturally curious about science. And so that natural curiosity takes over in a child. And so that was why we decided that our mission would be to reach children ages 7 to 13.
When did this structure open?
The building that you're talking about now just has been open for about 2.5 years. So we have waited a long time for this building to open up since our 40-year history.
Well, it shows a great deal of imagination. And what part did you have in the design?
Well, probably a little bit, not too much. What we did was we went to the people around us and asked if we were building this building, what were the needs and what did we need to put in. So we asked our students to participate, we asked our instructors, we asked people who were donors, we asked the neighbors. Anyone who had anything to do with EIS had an opportunity to come in and have a piece of this as part of their own part of what they wanted to do with EIS and in the design part.
Well,
and so
how receptive were the architects to all that input?
Well, they were very much so. They actually suggested that we do it that way. They came up with the design, the basic design, and then they said to us, these are the spatial requirements, is how it started out. So it really started out with a bunch of circles. And so if you can imagine that there were circles for the classrooms, there were circles for the conference room, there were circles for administrative space, and they took those circles and made the actual design out of it, and it's really fabulous. We were quite happy with the way it turned out, and the fact that it was very childlike. I think you see that with the kids, because we brought the kids in, that it's very playful, and we wanted something like that. So all the joy and the magic that you talk about was, I think, because the kids had their say-so in this project.
Yeah, wise decision. Now, the interior seems to have a lot of significance. What areas would you say have particular meaning?
Well, to me, it's all very special, and every part of it has a special meaning. I think if there were one part that I would take out, it would probably, that says EIS, is the circle of friends. And that area, when we look down in the rotundas, and you don't see rotundas in buildings, but here it's very special and very meaningful because it was a very difficult site to build on. And because it had this big drop, they had to do something, so they created these rotundas. Well, when you look over from the first floor and you look down, you see this beautiful mosaic of art that is called the Circle of Friends. And in here you see people joining hands, and you begin to see the diversity in the students, and it also is representative of the people that come into the lives of our organization.
Well, I think there's another floor that has some meaning.
There's also one that you can see, and we call it the Believe rotunda, but the artwork has to do with bees, and part of that was Mr. Watts actually wanted us to have a beehive, a real beehive in the building. And of course, that was the one thing that the architects said we couldn't get a permit for. So we decided that if we could not get the real bees in here, that we would honor Mr. Watts's request by having the graphic arts people create the bees on the floor. And so when you look down at this wonderful artwork, you can see that the bee design is one that is absolutely stunning.
Very much like every area of that building. Where does your student body come from?
Actually, our students come from all over San Diego County. We are very lucky in that we have students from over 250 elementary schools in San Diego County coming to EIS.
What is a typical day like?
Well, in this program that you're seeing now, our typical day starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and it concludes at 3:30 in the afternoon. And we are here to greet the students every morning when they come in and to say good morning to them, let them put away their belongings, and then we go in for our morning messages. And when we go in, we talk to them about the activities for the day or the week, or what their field trip is going to be like, or what their presentation for that week is going to be like. And we also want to hear from them. We find out what schools they're from and what their hobbies are and what their talents are. So we get to know all 80 students within that week, and it takes a lot to do that, but we give our best shot at getting to know the student as an individual.
Well, I noticed that there was a library, and it's occurred to me that you're doing more than teaching them science and technology. You're probably encouraging some kind of reading.
We do. We have a program called Read Science, and that program encourages students not only to read, but to read about science experiments and about scientists in general. And so we have a wonderful library where the students are gathering before they go into the conference room, and they can pick their favorite book and sit down and lounge, and we like it when we see our students taking advantage of that because it's their space.
Oh, and it's so good for them to encourage reading.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
And do they go to the classes after orientation?
After orientation, they go to their classes and they start their day. Each day they will have 4 labs, and so they will either have, they always have computer science, but they will have a biology lab or an engineering lab or a photography lab or some science lab that we will include in their curriculum. And they have lunch period, and they come back and they have, of course, Read Science and presentations every Wednesday and field trips on Friday. So it's a full week for the students when they come in. They have a lot on their plate. Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought what was rather unusual about it, I think you have a dark room?
We have a dark room. Our photography studio was set up as an informal science class because it's one where kids can learn a nice hobby and use the science that they learn from mixing chemicals when they go into the dark room to doing the enlarging of pictures. And there's such a great joy when a student has this accomplishment. So they will work as teams. When you come in, you will see them. One person will be the camera person, and another person will be responsible for setting up the picture, and another one will be responsible for the lighting. And so they take their work very serious when they're in photography, and they love at the end of the week taking home a picture to show their parents, this is what I did and this is how I took it, and they can describe the whole process. So that's fantastic for them.
Yeah, it sort of carries over beyond the school, which is
Yes.
so beneficial to maturing.
Mm-hmm.
How many lives would you say the Institute has influenced?
I think we probably have had more than 6,000 students to go through the program, and from that the students sort of learn a lot, not necessarily that we're interested in them becoming scientists, but that they begin to understand how science impacts a great deal of whatever they do. Mm-hmm. So whether they become accountants, whether they become attorneys, whether they become teachers, all of this is important in the whole scheme of their learning and their foundation for learning.
Have any of them ever pursued careers that are related to what they've learned here?
Yes, many of them have, and we hear about their great successes. And of course, we enjoy hearing about our students and how they come back and they will tell us that it started when they were taking classes at the Institute, and they sort of became interested in it and they wanted to pursue it. And they found out that it wasn't really hard. And I think that's a remarkable thing. We've made it fun, and yet they can accomplish a lot in the learning process and go on to learn that if they did it at EIS, well, gee, it wasn't so hard, it wasn't so difficult, I can do that. And so what you're getting is that I can do attitude, and that's exactly what you want from your students.
Well, what sets you apart from any public school that is teaching science and computer technology?
I think the thing that makes us unique and special is the fact that we concentrate on hands-on, minds-on. And that inquiry requires not a textbook-based learning, but actually hands-on experiments. And so because we know all children don't learn the same, this is an opportunity for students who may not get it by reading it, but they certainly get it by doing it. And so this affords them the opportunity to be proud of what they have accomplished, and there are no failures in this because you've noticed that our classes are very small. We have no more than 10 students in a classroom, and the ratio of 1 to 10 in a setting means and guarantees that every child will get their questions answered and that they will have a learning opportunity, unlike something that may happen in school where they're competing for time with the teacher. And so here, it's very little competition. You get your way most of the time in our classes.
Well, sign me up quick. How can one enroll?
It's very easy and very simple, and we deliberately wanted to have a way of getting our information into the hands of the students and the families that most needed it. And so it's a simple brochure. The kids take it home, or they're either on our mailing list, and they fill out the form and send it back to us, and it's first come, first serve.
Well, you must have a website so that our viewers can contact you.
Yes, we do have a website. It's eisca.org.
Well, I'm sure that they're going to post it on the program a number of times so that people can do that.
Okay.
What kind of feedback do you get from your alumni?
Well, I think from our alumni, they tell us that, well, first of all, they tell us that, oh, Mrs. Anderson, you're not as hard on these kids when they come back as you were on us. So somehow they think that we were hard on them and we made them. And that's because we have rules and regulations, and we ask the kids to sign a contract when they come to us, and we ask them to be on their best behavior when they come, and they have to abide by the safety rules when they come. So there are things that they have to do. And I think the things that we require them to do are some of the things that in life skills are very important when they go out into other areas. It's a sense of responsibility. It's a sense of being a good citizen wherever you are. And that sense makes them better person in terms of what they have to do. And so our alumni come back and they said that those things were very helpful to them in a lot of ways. But it also, they said to us that it made them look at things that they may not have looked at. And so we are very happy that we put opportunities there that they may not have thought of when they were 10 years old that may be very important when they're 30.
Well, you should be very proud of that philosophy because, excuse me, I think that carries a long way. What do parents have to say?
Parents are very supportive of the program, and a lot of times, in fact, this summer I overheard a parent who was at the desk, and she said, my daughter didn't really want to come. I had to make her come in the beginning, but now she's upset if I'm late getting her here. And we hear that a lot from the parents when we look at their surveys, and they tell us that it may have been the parent that got the child there, but it's the child that gets them there the next week or the next time. And they always said they want to include EIS in their summer program. So I think the first time it's the parent, but the second and third and fourth and fifth time that the child comes, which is typical in our program, that the children come back year after year. And that says a lot about how much they enjoy coming.
Well, are there some children that are reluctant to come and it's just a place for parents to park them?
Well, there probably are children that are reluctant to come, but when they get there, they find out that it's really not all that bad and that they actually enjoy making new friends, because we also teach them about respect of each other, and I think this is a great place for that to happen. So in addition to all the science that we encourage the kids to learn, we also encourage them to be respectful of other people. And so within that respect of other people comes out this sense of being a good person in your community. And it's a role model. It's kids coming in seeing people that look like themselves and people that look different than themselves. But it's all joining hands together for the benefit of the whole community that makes it work. And I think when kids see that in action, it helps to set that model for them to emulate also. So I think it's a good place at EIS that happens at.
Well, why don't we hear from the children themselves?
Well, the most important thing I learned in biology was about the scalpels and how sharp they are. And also, when you dissect things, it's a better idea to wear gloves and also not to touch anything sharp unless the teacher says it's okay.
My favorite class is computer science.
In computer science, when we were making our stories, we got to sort of like draw pictures to go with.
Oh, that was a structure of a roller coaster. When like a roller coaster ride, but it's made out of Legos.
Well, what I learned today in EIS that I didn't know before is that when your eye looks at something, it goes to the place in the back of the eye, but it shows the image upside down. So when it sends it to the brain has to turn it right side up because we're dissecting a cow. My favorite class is photography. When I grow up, I want to be a vet because I love animals.
We learned how to make silly putty. We used some borax, water, and some glue, and food coloring.
The children are so precious.
Thank you.
From where do you draw your faculty?
The instructors that come to EIS are usually university students who are majoring in the sciences, and so they could be juniors, seniors, or graduate students who are majoring in biology, engineering, computer science, and that's where we get our talent pool from.
Well, aside from the students and the faculty whose lives you impact, how do you serve the community?
Well, there are several ways that we serve the community, and we try to think of a lot of ways that we can include the community, because one of the things that we often hear from our parents, they will say to us, gee whiz, I wish I'd had that when I was growing up. And that's the most common comment that we hear throughout our parent population. And so one of the things that we've adopted this summer is we invite the parents to come to our presentations, and they find them very fascinating. So if we bring someone in for our students, on the notice will be an invite for the parents to come in and also learn and enjoy about what the students are. Then we have a program that's called the Community Lecture Series. And in that series, we are often inviting and encouraging the entire family to come and be a part of it. So that's the younger brothers and sisters, that's the grandparents, that's the parents and aunts and uncles, anyone who wants to come and learn a little bit more interesting aspect of a probably an area that they want to study. And so we select different areas that we think the entire family will enjoy. And when we put that on, we invite the family to come and learn. For example, we have the tsunami. We had Dr. Pat Abbott from San Diego State, and he came and gave a great lecture to our families about, could this happen in San Diego? Well, that's very beneficial to this community in particular. And in the upcoming series, we're going to address lessons learned from New Orleans. And so as we prepare our immediate families for that, we also want to prepare our community in an effort to really be on top of an emergency disaster program.
Do you use that lecture hall for the children at all?
Yes, we do. They are more than welcome at any time to be in the lecture hall. Most often you will find them in there doing presentations when we have presentations in our facility, and they go in every day for their afternoon messages where we will have a chance to have a dialogue with them. Usually there's about 15 minutes, and we, again, are listening to them. And we started a new program where I've asked them if they have any special talents. And so when they come in after they've had lunch and recess, they will come in and perhaps bring an instrument that they play or sing a song for us or do something to share talents with us. And so we have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, it sounds like something that's aside from the study part of it, and one that they probably really enjoy.
Yes, they do. They totally enjoy coming in there. It's the coolest room in the summer, so they love to come in and get cooled down after recess. But aside from that, they also just enjoy the fact that they can come in when there's an important lecture going on, and they can have the proper place to receive that information.
What is your greatest need?
Gee, there are lots of things. I think right now as we go on, we're embarking on a new campaign. It's called The Miracle on 51st Street. And what we will be doing is something I think is so extraordinary in San Diego that we will need the help and the support of the entire community to pull it off. But it simply is a way where we can say to organizations, businesses, the academic community, the scientific community, fast forward 20, 30 years from now, and what are the issues that our students are going to be facing, and how can we help prepare them for that? That's a tall order.
Yeah, it is. It is, but I think you've got all the makings for making that reach fruition. Most nonprofit organizations need volunteers. What impact do they have on your institute?
Well, we are constantly using our volunteers, and we certainly appreciate our volunteers. If you walk through the nature walk, you will see the results of the efforts of our volunteers who took a small piece of land that nothing was growing there, and when you look at it now, you'll see the beautiful flowers and trees that are growing there where kids can take a stroll down, and hummingbirds and butterflies. and even little mice. We've found some little field mice that have made a home there.
Really?
I don't particularly like that part of it, but they do, and it just makes it very natural, a very lovely setting for kids to also learn. So we call it our extra outdoor space. But it was all done by volunteers. And so they organized it and planned it and planted it. So very much so
another
supportive.
thing to be proud of.
Yes.
How are you funded?
Well, we're funded mostly by foundations, businesses, corporations within the community, and individuals who believe and have the same values that we have in terms of science education for young kids. And so when they see what we're doing and what we're trying to do, those are most likely to support our program.
Is the public invited to view your premises?
Yes, it's open to the public, and we love to have them come in and see what we're doing and help us if they can.
Well, what is your view for the future? Where would you like to be as time goes on?
Well, I think if we fast forwarded 5 years, the Miracle on 51st Street would be a reality. I would like to see this program embraced by our city, by our state, and by our nation. I think our students have a lot to give, and we have a lot that we need to do with them and for them. And part of that is passing the torch of leadership on to them and letting them be a part of that process right now. There is no reason for a 15-year-old not to be able to understand what these issues are and to be a part of the solution for what the problems and challenges are.
So would you say that the public schools are a good source for getting your personnel and your student body?
Yes, I think the public schools are very important and very supportive. We certainly have, I think it's a partnership too, because whereas we take the position of the hands-on science, we depend on the schools to actually do the books and that part of it.
Thank you for taking time out of your very busy day to be here and to inspire us.